This is a story that my friend told me. This happened to her older sister. She goes to a large private religious university in Utah. She was staying at an apartment not too far away from campus with 3 other girls. The semester had just started and 2 of the 3 girls were asleep. My friend's sister was on her phone, sitting in the living room when she heard what sounded like footsteps outside the window behind her. She listened closely, but dismissed it as just some stray cat or dog. Soon after, she heard a thud against the dining room wall coming from the outside, and heard what sounded like muffled whispering. My friend's sister is an excellent marksman, so she decided that she would scare off whoever was outside by opening the blinds, turning on the lights, grabbing the shotgun that she kept on the mantle, and pointing it out the window while screaming for the other girls to wake up. She saw a short man wearing all black and a ski mask running away. The cops came shortly after, and she filed a report. Fast forward a few weeks later, and my friend's sister keeps seeing a small white truck with tinted windows following her. She dismisses it as her imagination, but it still freaks her out a little. One weekend, her roommates have gone out of town, so it's just her by herself. Right as she's about to fall asleep, she hears a pounding at her door. She bolts to the door and looks through the peephole to see a cop standing there. "Who are you?" she asks.
"I'm a cop,"
says the guy.
"Open up. It's the law,"
he yells menacingly. My friend is starting to call bullshit, but she's scared of disobeying him if he actually is a cop. "Why are you here so late?" she asks.
"Remember a few weeks ago when that guy tried to break into your house? I have an update on him."
My friend is freaking out now because why would a cop try to talk to her about the case so late and by himself? He wasn't even the officer who helped her fill out the report. "Show me your badge," she demanded. He pulled it out and shoved it into the peephole. She sighed with a breath of relief. Right as she was unlocking the door, she glanced down at his legs and noticed that this cop had very elevated platform boots and a machete in his utility belt, and the name on his uniform didn't match the name on his badge. "You're not a fucking cop," she yelled at him. The fake cop screamed and started slamming on the door saying,
"I'm an officer of the law, and you will obey me. Open up."
She called 911 and held her weight behind the front door, clutching her shotgun until the real cops arrived. The guy was long gone by then, but he left behind his cap, which was a prop from a party store. The day after this, my friend broke her lease and moved to a new city in Utah, transferred schools, and bought a Doberman to keep her company. This didn't happen to me, but to my mom about 4 years ago. I was about 12 at the time and was at a 3-day-long field trip with my school and had left on Wednesday and would be back on Friday. When I came home, my mom and brother told me this story. My mom, my brother, and sister were all driving back from my brother's wrestling practice that was from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. It was about 30 minutes away from my house, so it was not that long of a drive. About 10 minutes into the drive, my mom noticed that she was being followed by a gray car. I don't remember what the car was, but she had an eerie feeling, but pushed it off as it was a busy street and it wasn't really anything scary. It followed her until she got off the road and onto a more quiet street, and the car was still following her. At this point, she started to feel a little weird, but she did not say anything to freak out my little brother, who was 10, and my little sister, who was 8. So she kept quiet and kept looking out her rearview mirror. It had followed them until she got onto our road, and our road did not have any street lamps except for the one at the end. So this meant that our street was very dark. So she pulled into our driveway, and to my mom's horror, the car had stopped in front of our house. My mom is a very strong woman, so she got out and told my brother and sister to stay in the car. A skinny white man stepped out of the car and told my mom that he was the police and that he would need to take her to the station to ask her some questions about her reckless driving. My mom is a very safe driver, and she never drinks or smokes, and she knows that she wasn't driving recklessly. She told him that she didn't recall any of that and would like to see proof that he was a cop. But he just kept persisting that she come with him, and then said,
"Bring your children as well."
At this moment, she knew this man was not a cop, because she never told him that she had any children. She kept refusing to go and told him to leave. The man suddenly started walking towards my mom. She was startled at this sudden movement and was frozen in fear as he came closer. Suddenly, the front door opened to my house and my dad stepped out. The man froze in his tracks and squinted at my dad. My dad is a big guy. He used to be a wrestler and also boxed. The man made eye contact with my dad and started to walk back to his car. Then he said to my mom,
"I will let you off with a warning."
He got into his car and drove away. My mom quickly rushed my brother and sister into the house and locked the door. She hugged them and cried. My dad told them that he had a strange gut feeling and felt like something made him go outside. They believed that it was a guardian angel. When she told me this story, the one thing that bothered me the most was that he had known that she had kids and that we drive home from practice every day of the week. This could only mean that he was stalking us and knew our daily routine. But it doesn't end there. About 2 weeks later, me and my brother are getting dropped off at our bus stop to go home. We're the only 2 kids to get off at our stop, and the walk home is about a 3-minute walk. As we're about to get off the bus, my brother freezes and grabs me by the shoulder and points out a window to a gray car and whispers in my ear, "That's the guy that followed us." I stared and a chill ran down my spine. The man was sitting in the car looking at the bus. I turned to the bus driver and explained the situation. He then told us to go sit down in the seat right behind him. He then drove us directly to our house and dropped us off. Our dad was home, and we came running to him and told him that the man was back. As we said this, he told us that maybe it was just a coincidence. But then he looked up, and his eyes grew wide. I turned around to see the car slowly coming down our road. But as it came in view to my house, the man looked at my dad and sped away quickly. From that day forward, my dad picked us up and dropped us off to school every day, and we never saw the car or the man ever again. So this happened to my aunt and uncle in the early 80s. They were living in Austin, Texas, and had attended a party in a neighboring area. They were driving back very late, and at one point, they were driving on a very long, completely deserted stretch of road, bordered by woods and brush on either side. No houses, no streetlights, no other cars on the road, nothing. Until my uncle, who is driving, notices a car coming up behind them, which then speeds up and gets very close. My aunt and uncle start talking about how weird this guy is. They can see it's just one man driving, and there's no reason to tailgate on an empty road in the middle of the night. Then the guy speeds up even more and pulls up alongside them. He starts yelling at them to pull over and is flashing what looks like a police badge. My uncle starts to slow down to pull over, and my aunt absolutely freaks out and tells him not to. She's really creeped out by this guy who is driving a car that has no police markings and no flashing lights, and pulled up to them out of nowhere and is now trying to get them to pull over just by flashing a badge. While they argue about whether or not to pull over, the man in the other car is getting more angry, yelling at them to pull over, beeping his horn and flashing the badge, saying that he's the police. My aunt starts crying, but my uncle says fine, if he really was a cop and they need to stop for him, they will do so in the next populated area, which will be a while, but they reasoned that if he really was a cop, he would have to understand their point of view. My aunt and uncle keep wavering between worried this guy is out of his mind and worried it's a real cop and we're going to get in big trouble for not pulling over when told. Finally, they see a gas station up ahead and plan to stop there. As soon as they pull into the gas station, the cop speeds off, never to be seen by them again. They didn't think to try to get his license plate number at the time and were just thoroughly creeped out. They drove the rest of the way home without incident. But the story does not end there. A few months later, on the exact same stretch of road, a man is rescued who tells a horrifying story, which is then big news in Austin. A fake cop, flashing a badge and beeping his horn, had gotten this man, who was driving at night with his girlfriend on that very same road, to pull over. Once pulled over, the fake cop forced the man and his girlfriend to get out of the car. By gunpoint maybe, I'm not sure on all the details at this point. My aunt refused to read too much about the story back then because she was so freaked out, and my uncle doesn't remember everything in detail. The man and his girlfriend were taken into the woods on the side of the road. He ties the man and his girlfriend to separate trees, facing each other, and does horrible things to both, ultimately killing the woman while the other was forced to watch just a few feet away. I'm not sure how the man ended up being rescued, but it was long after the fake cop was gone. Either someone must have found the man tied there, or he finally got loose and found help. They never caught the fake cop murderer. That could have been my aunt and uncle if they had pulled over their car that night, like my uncle wanted and started to do. My aunt always ends the story with, and that's why my husband always has to listen to me. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please share, like, and comment, and become part of the Unity by hitting the subscribe button. If you have a scary story that you would like to share, be sure to send it to my email or post it on the free horror stories subreddit. Consider donating to this channel and be sure to follow me on Twitter. And until next time, stay spooky and never forget, there's always a reason to be afraid.